Meg, Christia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us, Trisha.
Now, Meg, you're no stranger to the News 24 live couch, but last time you were here, you looked significantly different. But it all had to do with what we're talking about today. So won't you take us back in time?
That's true. Well, last year on the eve of Women's Day, I walked from Cape Town to Muizenberg, dressed in a torn petticoat and with painted on bruises, and arrived here sweaty and smelly in the studio, still on quite an adrenaline high. And it was all for the aid of this film, which we were fundraising, and we at last have the budget, and we are making the film, which is incredibly exciting, with Christia playing Tess, the lead character.
Now, last time we spoke, we were referring to the film as Whiplash, but that's changed a little. Tell us about that.
We was robbed. We were so cross. Because Whiplash is the name of the book that the story is based on, and it's a beautiful book by local author Tracy Farron, and it is Whiplash at its core. But as many of you will know, there was an Oscar-winning film with J.K. Simmons in the lead, a fantastic film about a drummer called Whiplash. It won an Oscar earlier this year, and so we couldn't invite comparisons with a much higher budget film, and so quickly in the wake of that film we were forced to change our title, and it is tentatively called Shushh, which speaks to the issues of silence and complicity which are at the heart of the story.
Christy, you played Tess, and this cannot be an easy character to play. Won't you introduce us to her?
Sure, introduce you to Tess. Tess is, I think in essence, she could be every woman. She could be any woman. But Tess is really going through a very, very tough time in her life where she has to make decisions that is not necessarily decisions that you would want to make or like to make in your life. She's having to face the demons of her past when certain issues arise. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say too much because it feels like the more I say, the more I'm going to give the story away. But she is a prostitute in Muizenberg. She's going through a tough time. Yeah, and from there the decisions and the demons.
In fact, this film really touches on gritty issues. We have the topic of sex work, of abuse. As an actress, these can't be easy topics to grapple with. Tell us a little bit about your process in channeling Tess's pain.
Look, it's never, being any character as an actress, it's never an easy journey, but this one specifically, Tess's journey is so wildly out there, and there's no emotional line really. It's so many ups and downs and so much hurt and so much pain. As an actress, I think for myself to stay sane, I need to take it bit by bit. So I take it step by step, and I try and work through the layers of emotion that she's experiencing at that stage. And I try to use things. I mean, I haven't been through abuse. I haven't experienced what she's experienced, but I have similar feelings that I can relate to in my own life, and I try and use that. And also, we had a really great time speaking to some of the ladies that were in that situation, and that to me just made her so much more real in my mind. And so I can use what I have and also the imaginative part of it, and speaking to people that were there, and mix it all together to create this character.
Meg, when we last spoke, it was Women's Month. We're just coming out of Women's Month now. As a filmmaker, why did you decide that this was the next project you wanted to take on?
I just think it's one of the most important critical things that we as South Africans are facing. Absolutely horrific rates of women abuse and child abuse. And if someone commits a crime against a woman or child, they have a 93% chance of getting away with it in South Africa. So at its core, this film is a statement, it's an activist film, but it's very important to us that it's not didactic, and that it's the story which will capture people's imaginations and hopefully invite their empathy and discussion. So it seems absolutely vital to me as a woman and as a mother to talk about these issues which are very close to my heart in my chosen craft of filmmaking.
Christia, in a way, has it given you a deeper understanding, perhaps, of what so many women in the country go through on a daily basis?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, as just a normal person in South Africa, you tend to judge very quickly, and you tend to try and make things lighter to protect yourself. But this, for me, has just opened my eyes to so many things. I never, yeah, I don't know. It's so difficult to explain because the journey that we're all going through, I think, is it's kind of an emotional roller coaster. It's just very nice that my eyes are open to what's really going on, and that is what I feel now so much more passionate about, is to tell people that, to kind of explain to them that this is the journey I went through, and this is where I was. I also judged. I also didn't understand, and here I am, playing this character that is just changing my life.
Christy, I think that's so powerful, and I suppose the hope then is that translates to the viewers who would then have the same opportunity to go through a similar process.
Exactly, yes.
Meg, let's talk a bit about the filmmaking process. It's particularly exciting considering you're filming in Muizenberg, where, as I understand, the book was set.
Absolutely, it is. It's wonderful that we're actually going into some of the very same locations. The very cafe, the very pharmacy, the very beachfront, everything which are described in the book, so that's very exciting. And it's very exciting to me through this whole rehearsal process that we've been doing with the actors, and particularly with Christia, to see the words on the page start to come to life. It's like a first stage of seeing what you visualize and imagine for so long starting to take form, and we're filming in just a week's time, so that's incredibly exciting, terrifying and exciting. Chrissy has just been so brave and so open and so empathetic and very courageous. It's a raw, gritty role. I also don't want to say too much, but it's a challenge for any actress, and I just really admire her courage.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the difficulties, because I know that making a film isn't all smooth sailing. I feel like we could be here for the rest of the evening chatting about some of the problems. But let's chat a little bit about funding. I know that is one of the problems that many South African films, if not all South African films, are facing. Have you come across this particular challenge?
Well, it's taken us 5 years to get here. So we're incredibly grateful to the National Film and Video Foundation, to MNet, CakeNet, and to the Department of Trade and Industry. And then also the crowdfunding scheme that we did last year, and the walk was part of that, which raised some finance too. So we have a budget, but it is very, very tight. So we're like knocking our head against the wall all the time. In fact, I was just chatting to you saying we had an emergency finance meeting at 8 a.m. this morning. It's like, Meg, what can you cut? We have to cut. So it's very nerve-wracking. So I hate to always have a begging bowl, but if there's anyone out there who would like to help us, even with a little bit of money, or a lot, or a little, anything, or help us in kind, you know, feeding a big crew, well, actually a small crew, but feeding a movie crew is very expensive. Everything's expensive, so maybe you have a business in the area, maybe we also have opportunities for product placement. So the email address, I know you're going to show, marika@eagleeyeproductions.co.za. We'll put that up. If you'd like to contact our lovely publicity person, Marika, help, be part of the journey. You'll get tickets to the premiere, you'll get screen credits. If you run a business, you can have your logo up there. We're really open to talk and ideas of any kind.
We'll put that email address below this video.
Thank
so
you. Thanks,
anybody
Jerusha.
who watches can contact.
Yeah, it's lovely that there is a whole community around this film, and we'd love to invite people to be part of that. Thanks.
Christia, as a young South African actress going through this process, does it make you optimistic or nervous about being an actress in South Africa?
Sure, I think both. It's nerve-wracking, especially doing a role like this, because it's very out the box for South Africa. I think it's something that you hope people see as a good thing and not as a bad thing, because I am taking a lot of risks as this character. It was a difficult decision for me during this part, because my heart said yes and my mind said, wait, what are people going to think? But at the same time, we need people to see this. This is a story that needs to be told. And I always said that as an actress, why be an actress if I'm not going to challenge myself? And if I'm not going to tell stories that would change people's perspective on things. So yeah, it's a positive. It could be a positive and a negative, but with this, my heart is completely in it. My guts told me to do it, and the story that we're telling, I think, is definitely a positive story. So.
we're very grateful you're doing it. Very excited.
Tell us about your timeline going forward. I know that you're set to start shooting next week. And how long before we can expect to see the film? How long are you going to shoot
for? Good question. We're shooting for 4 6-day weeks, so we start on the 15th of September.
Now, as I understand it, that's a relatively quick time to shoot a film.
I mean, time equals money. Every day that you're on the set, you're paying people, you're paying for locations, you're paying. It's expensive. So 24 days, it's not a disaster, but we have to move fast. So part of making that possible has been a really rigorous pre-production process. I'm really lucky to be working with a long-standing collaborator, Bert Heitzma, as the cinematographer, and we've literally talked about every shot in the movie. We've rehearsed with the actors, and Christy has been fantastic in that process and has had a huge amount of creative input also there. She's a real collaborator, and so this will help things go more smoothly, I hope, on the day. I hope and trust. But there are challenges, there are sometimes compromises you have to make. It's not like working on a big budget Hollywood production where you might have 3-4 times the amount of time to shoot. So you make decisions. The way we're going to shoot is also organic, very handheld. That will also help, but it does take time. So it's just being very prepared, be prepared to make compromises, and you work very long hours. You don't think about anything else for that period.
So it's 20 odd days of
24 days of shooting. So we start on the 15th of September, we finish on the 11th of October. We have a 12-week editing process, and then we will do the final, so that'll take us up to Christmas time, barring disaster, and we'll do the final post-production in January. And we will then take it to festivals next year, and it will be available on the circuit and eventually on Mnet and CakeNet about a calendar year after that. So it's not going to be available anytime very soon. But it will be complete early next year.
To the viewer who wants a little more information, who perhaps wants to follow along on social media, I know there's an active Facebook page. Tell us about that.
Please follow us on our Facebook page and take part in it. There's a whole community around there. We have lots of followers, and we love to interact. So let's get that up again. Also, it's www.facebook.whiplash film, but let's put that up. Even though the film is now called Shushh, and we're also on Twitter, and Marika Krumper again is leading a fantastic publicity campaign around that. And we really love to, many of our supporters are being extras on the film, they're coming to set, they're being involved in all sorts of ways, so that's great.
I do love that the supporters can actually be a part of the filmmaking process.
Yes,
it's quite fantastic.
I mean, we're telling this raw, beautiful story. It's amazing that people want to be a part of that and share the journey and experience with us. It's amazing.
Well, I'm so grateful that you both took the time to speak to us today, and I would very much like you to come back a little down the line so that we can hear more about how it goes.
We'd love to. That would be great. Thanks, Charisha.
Thank you so much.